This is Johnny with Tigerbomb MMA, and tonight I'm going over UFC Paris, Gane versus Spivac. Currently 10 bouts on this card. Two of them got nixed, so it would have been the Gomes fight, which honestly, the less fights to break down on this card, the better, and the Taylor Lapilus fight versus Gafarov. Honestly, I'm pretty ecstatic that there's two less fights to break down because a lot of these fighters are very unknown, as the French would call them, jobbers. So overall, not too bad of a fight card. What I've taped so far has been intriguing, but honest to God, this card itself has been like giving me warning signs of like, don't fucking bet me. So I may potentially sit this one out. It just depends. There's a couple bets that like might take a shot on, but not too intrigued. It's kind of a tricky situation here. There's a couple of fights that I'm like, they're not going to go the distance, but overall, I might just sit this one out. Let the French side of me, chortle a bit as we see the Frenchmen win obviously bad decisions, which I'm going to get into. But with this particular card, 10 bouts. But before I break this one down, I wanted to give you my thoughts on the depressingly depressing Holloway versus Zombie card. Jesus, that ending to that fight was heart-wrenching to me. Like, I stayed up the whole night. I woke up at 4 a.m, my time, to watch the entire card, and it was worth it, except for the first few fights where I had to chug down some Ghost energy drinks. But interesting card overall, very fun, especially the first round knockouts where everyone's going nuts to try to get that finish. But let's get started with the first fight. Seung Woo Choi defeats Jarno Aarons. First thing I noticed about Seung Woo Choi, and what I mentioned about that fight, is like, if he fights intelligently, he's going to win. And he actually did fight pretty intelligently. Like, he used his grappling at one point. He displayed his toughness. He got dropped by Aarons, funny enough, by the Nazi-killing uppercut that he threw against Koga, which I thought was, like, I love that uppercut, which I call the drive-by uppercut, because you just kind of like, boof, and he dropped him. That was beautiful. But overall, like, Seung Woo Choi didn't go full heat hard, if you will. The Brazilian way to say but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what he did, and it showed that he's maturing as a fighter. My biggest criticism about the guy throws the same damn combination every time, and he gets countered. This time, he didn't necessarily go that route. He was a little bit more technical. He used his reach, used leg kicks. I liked what I saw. And for Aarons, kind of expected it. Like, he had a good moment and couldn't capitalize. J.J. Aldrich defeats Na Liang. I laughed myself silly watching this fight, mainly because I was super delirious, and I could have been like, I was like pinching myself. I'm like, I gotta be asleep. Na Liang's getting takedowns on JJ Aldrich. And I'm just like, Aaron Blanchfield couldn't do that, but Na Liang does it 3 times. The other thing, I'm like, I must be high on something, right? Like, my brain must be losing oxygen, because I could have sworn I saw JJ Aldrich get a finish in the UFC, and I guess it's true. Like, she got the finish. I was surprised, but nothing surprising there. What was a bit surprising was the next fight, the Billy Goff versus Kinoshita fight. See, I picked Kinoshita, but I was gargling the, Billy Goff, because I'm like, Billy's a tough guy, and he can make this fight very interesting if Kinoshita gets tired, or if he shows himself to be a little, what's the word, pussy-ish. What was interesting is that everything that I thought was going to happen happened. Kinoshita was landing on Billy. He was pinpoint accurate. Billy ate the shots. He didn't go down. And then Billy finished him with a body shot. And I was like, I didn't see that coming. I thought he was going to take him down and beat his brains in. Like, awfully, awfully bad, but he hit him beautifully to the body. And what we learned about Kinoshita is that, as I've dubbed him now, he's not Japanese Connor. He is Japanese Jordan Wright. Keep him in the UFC. Let us get our unders in here, and we'll have a very fun time with the guy. But damn, is he not talented? He shows the talent, but we just never saw that extra bit of him. He just got super hyped, and he got crumbled by a super tough guy. So there's no real shock there to me. It was one of the predictions I got wrong, but realistically, I'm not going to like beat myself over it. I was pretty accurate in what could have happened here. But Kinoshita, I'm not giving up on him yet, like a bunch of people are. It's a lot of learning lessons. How old is this fucking kid? He's 23. He's still got at least 10 years until he hits his absolute prime. Just give him some time. Like, don't hype him up. He's going to have to learn from these lessons, and we'll go from there. But for Billy Goff, though, like he's the man for me. It's disappointing we didn't get to see his brother Jack. But next bout, Kenan Song versus Bedoya. The next fight I got wrong, but did I though? I did kind of say like if like Bedoya's a nasty knockout pending in the wings, right? He throws a lot of output. The line itself was ridiculous, so betting him was not a good idea. I did end up putting him on like a throwaway parlay, which would have cashed had I not been an idiot and bet him. But I realistically thought he could win, and he was winning basically every moment of the fight until he kept getting clipped. Like his chin is there to get touched. Kenan Song did a beautiful job of just saying "fuck your volume," bing bang boom, you're down. And props to Kenan. Like I thought he would knock him out if there was a chance for him to win, but he ended up decisioning him by dropping him a few times. So great fight. And then Mikhail Oleshaychuk versus Chidi Njokuani. What a fight. Chidi attacks the body immediately. He starts blasting the body of Mikhail. Mikhail didn't give a shit. He kept moving forward. The pressure happened. Chidi nearly knocked out Mikhail with that head kick. And then what ends up happening is that he couldn't finish him because that was his opportunity. If he was, I don't want to say smart, but if he had better fight IQ and knew his opponent, like he's not gonna get knocked out. He won't allow himself to. The Lord himself would not allow Mikhail to get knocked out quite yet. He should have taken the neck and choked him out. And I think that would have been an easy win at that point for Chidi, because you can say I knocked the boy out and I choked him out, but he tried to knock him out with knees and elbows, and Mikhail still had wits about him. And then what ended up happening? Chidi gassed himself out, and then Mikhail whipped his ass. And it sucked to see Chidi go out that way, because you see how great of a fighter he is. Like a majority of the roster at middleweight would have gone down to what he threw at Mikhail, but it's just that he keeps getting these really tough dudes. Great fight though. So I didn't put Mikhail in any of my bets. I kind of stayed away from it because that reason, the craziness. But yeah, it was a super fun fight, and it should have gotten. I was going to say it should have gotten fight of the night, but then I realized what was fight of the night. Garrett Armfield cashes in my fake 15-unit bet against Kazama. He looked every bit as I expected him to. Now, let me explain. It was around 5, 6 in the morning, and I was legitimately shitting myself. Literally, I hadn't gone to the restroom yet, so I was like, I need to see this fight, right? And I was getting worried because like you get that little doubt in your head, because when you're so confident in something, you're like, what are the ways he loses? Oh my God, if he slips and he takes the back and he chokes him out. He looked every bit as I expected him to. The boxing looked better than I thought it was going to look. People were calling him Mayweather Armfield or whatever. He looked great. He looked absolutely great. He finished him essentially twice. Kazama was butthurt that he got stopped. He got finished twice. It was absolutely miraculous. He didn't take any punishment. Got on the mic. Didn't sound great on the mic, but God bless him, he tried. But yeah, I actually had 2 units on him. Cashed easy. I was super surprised because like usually when I have like more than a unit on a guy, things get a little hairy. And I've learned that my new betting model of don't be retarded has been paying off. So I wasn't retarded this week, and it paid off very well. I had a very winning card. I ended up betting the next fight live. I took Waldo to win like a quarter unit just because like I didn't want to, as I mentioned before, be retarded. He took too many leg kicks here, where what's funny about Bresky is that I didn't expect him to throw that hard of leg kicks to actually affect Acosta. You can tell that he wasn't liking it. And then when Acosta hit him with what I thought was a straight right hand, I'm sorry, not a straight, but like just a looping right hand, it was actually an elbow that like discombobulated the man. And it was almost like, how dare you kick my leg? So Bresky, poor bastard. But yeah, Costa shows that he does have that power. It's about time. And then if you really think about it, like it was a likelihood that he would knock him out. Acosta does hit hard. It's just that he's been fighting dudes that are super durable. Like those 2 idiots, Chase Sherman can take a punch, and Vandera, who funny enough just recently got knocked out, can take a punch. So moving on, I had 2 units on Junior Tafa. Thank God for that cheeky fence grab, because he did exactly what we had to do to Parker Porter, knock him the fuck out in the first round. I took him live, and I guess pre-fight, I took him inside the distance in the first round, had him 2 units at minus 150. They cashed super easy. Great overall card so far for me. Aaron Blanchfield defeats Talia Santos. So what makes me feel like I'm the smartest motherfucker is when I didn't bet Aaron Blanchfield at like minus money, like minus 160. I waited until she lost that first round. All the homies got plus money on Erin Blanchfield. I got her at plus 165. I know someone that got her like at plus 2 something because Talia Santos looked very good in the first round. It shows how good that division is when you get to that upper echelon. But what I knew what would happen is that Erin Blanchfield will adjust in that second round, which she did. She ended up pushing her against the cage. Talia Santos was the one that made the mistake in this fight where she, I don't know if it was like a lateral drop where she tried it, but then she fell on her back. Erin Blanchfield controlled. And then the third round, Erin just put it on her. It showed really how good of a competitor she is, like upper echelon competitive nature of Erin, where she's like, I'm probably not going to finish you, but I'm going to make goddamn sure that I win this fight, which she did. So cash that money on her. Rinya Nakamura defeats Fernie Garcia by decision. I kind of predicted decision. I didn't want any action on this. Just I took a little bit of action on Fernie just in case Rinya decided to be stupid. He was not stupid this time. He actually showed his pedigree with the wrestling. It was fantastic. The grappling was ridiculous. They were saying that Rinya couldn't finish Fernie, like meaning that was a negative thing on Rinya. It was more positive on Fernie. Fernie's a tough guy, and he's not going to quit on himself. And for that reason, I think they might even give him another shot. They're just going to give him like a, hey, let's bring in what division is this? It is the bantamweight. Let's bring back the God, what's his name? The green-haired kid that Sean O'Malley knocked out. Can't remember, Multivo, whatever. Let's bring him back so he can whip his ass. Hopefully he can whip his ass, but I do hope Fernie gets another shot. Like he's so good at what he does that they don't allow him to do what he does. Moving on, I had Giga Chikadze on a final parlay with I think Acosta, Armfield, and Tafa and Chikadze. So this one cashed out for me. I think I mentioned it during the last video. I was a little worried because like Alex was doing well, and then they read the scorecards after a pretty close fight that I thought Giga won very clearly, 29-28. They read it 30-27, and I'm like, what the fuck? 30-27, and then Giga won it 30-27. I didn't agree with that. Then it turned out that Alex had his arm broken in the first round. Like, I guess it was a 30-27. The judges saw something we didn't. But yeah, good for Giga. He didn't look great. He looked a little rusty, but he showed that he still got mega power with that Giga kick. I think I made a joke, a stupid-ass joke on Twitter, that Giga had been working on his grappling and that he invented a new submission called the Giga Plata. So hopefully he busts that out soon. Anthony Smith defeats Ryan Spann via co-main event, split decision. That's a co-main event. Lots of controversy against Anthony Smith. They were booing him for winning a fight. Ryan Spann lost that fight. It was, I can see the split decision, but it was clear round number 1 and round number 3 for Anthony Smith. Reason for it, obviously Ryan Spann won round number 2. Could you give it a 10-8? I wouldn't know. He hurt Anthony, but what's interesting about optics, like round number 3 starts, Anthony's eye is busted. You're not deducting points because his eye is busted. And what I saw in that third round was Anthony Smith throwing leg kicks. He was kind of being a little bit more protective of his eye, moving backwards, but he was landing hard shots. Ryan Spann, he didn't mark up, but he would kind of get out of position. He would get hit and he'd like stumble back a little bit, but almost like a little hop. So it didn't look incredibly effective, but it was visually effective. Like he's hitting him hard. Anthony, in my opinion, landed the better shots. He wasn't moving forward. Ryan Spann was moving forward, but he wasn't doing much. So for people to say that Ryan Spann won that fight, I had money on Anthony Smith, so I was pretty happy about that. And then Max Holloway defeats Chan Sung Jung. Boy, howdy, I had another parlay with this being over 1.5 rounds. So let me tell you the heart attack I had and why I love Chan Sung Jung even more. I needed this one to have a beautiful night where I made, I think, like $1,000. And this was the last parlay piece. Max Holloway and Chan Sung Jung had to go over 1.5 rounds. And what happens in the second round before the fight ends? Chan Sung Jung gets knocked out. And by the grace of God, Max Holloway didn't follow up with shots. And then Mark Goddard let the fight go, and because Chan Sung Jung is a bad motherfucker, he grabbed the legs of Max Holloway, signifying that he's still at least with it, and then Max puts him in the Darce choke or the Anaconda. I don't remember. I don't remember specifically because I was like, oh my God, please don't. And then Chan Sung Jung, it's deep, but he's doing every sound. There's a moment there where I'm thinking Mark Goddard's going to stop it, but you see Chan Sung just kind of pushing on the legs of Holloway to kind of gain some space to breathe. Holloway gives it up, and then they get back on the feet, and I'm like, oh my God, eventually it hits, and I'm like, let them do what they will, right? And then what really like surprised me, but not really, was that third round where Chan Sung Jung, like, he had accepted his fate, and he knew, like, it's over for me, right? Like, either I go out the way I want to go out, or I go out the worst way possible, because he kind of knew, like, Holloway's going to beat me either by a decision, or he's going to knock me out in a manner that I'm not going to like, that's going to look negative, right? He doesn't want to be against the cage getting pounded on. So he goes after him. He does the Diaz, like, let's fucking go. Like, what's up, bitch? And then he gets cracked and dropped. And what's funny, in pro wrestling, there's the way to go out, right? You have to put the other guy over. And I feel like that's what Chan Sung Jung did here. Like, he knew he wasn't going to beat Max. He's like, fuck it. Let's just go out my terms. And he did. It was beautiful. It was sad. Him bowing down and the crowd singing his song. It was like, I almost shed a tear. But yeah, it was a good moment for Chan Sung Jung. And for Max Holloway, he finally got his one punch knockout. So for him to think now that he has that one punch power, he doesn't have it. He just happened to get Chan Sung Jung presenting his chin to him. But overall, good night for me. Got quite a bit of predictions right. A couple reads were right. I didn't bet the guys that I knew I shouldn't have bet. So I did think about betting, what's his name? That idiot Bedoya, but the name Doi is in there. So like, Doi, don't bet him. So I didn't bet him. And then obviously Kinoshita. I actually thought about betting Kinoshita, but I'm like, you know what? If I'm getting those feelings, like, don't bet him. And that's kind of where I'm leaning with this card coming up, the Paris card, because I'm getting those feelings of maybe don't bet these fucking fighters. Because starting off the card, we've got bantamweight bout Farid Basharat versus Clayton Rodrigues. The reason is ferocious Farid Basharat, minus 290. Come back on Clayton Rodrigues is plus 235. Realistically, this is the hardest matchup for each other, yet the odds themselves don't show that. It shows that Basharat should come in here and dominate Clayton, and in reality, like, to keep it short, he should. I'm picking him to win this one. He can win by decision, more than likely. That's what I'm going to pick. Or he can finish Clayton Rodrigues in the later rounds, round number 3 and round number 2. Clayton, like, he had an issue with the scale last time where they canceled his bout. And what I don't necessarily like about Clayton Rodrigues is that despite me thinking that he is 100% UFC ready, he's primed, he's 27 years old, he kicks good, he grapples good, he's got a lot of good qualities, that I just worry that a better, cleaner guy like Basharat will pick him apart, get him tired, hit the body, and then point fight him. Because I think Basharat, say what you will, if he's the lesser Basharat, but he has those qualities of, he's got the toughness, he's got the good striking, he's got the good wrestling defense. I think he's got the capabilities here to overwhelm Clayton. Like, take the early Rodrigues barrage. Basharat barrage sounds better, but Clayton Rodrigues will probably go in, not necessarily guns a-blazing, but it'll come in hot. And if, say, for example, he does that, I think Basharat will eventually take over, that he might even lose the first round. So when it's at like minus 250, minus 300 for a Basharat, like, he's undefeated, there's just too many possibilities for him to make a mistake. And I think Clayton could potentially capitalize. So it might even be a good shot to take Clayton. I'm just not really interested in this particular fight. Like, I'm going to enjoy it, as I mentioned. And if Basharat gets over Clayton, if he finishes Clayton in the first round, that's like a big statement. But if Clayton comes in here and he's like well adjusted to the style of Basharat, because there's a way to beat the guy, right? Like, he's not a perfect fighter. It's just presented that way because he's getting so much hype because of him and his brother. I think Clayton has a good shot here. especially because he's so explosive and he can just mix things up well. You know, I like this Farid Basharat for real, but I just don't like him enough to feel like he's going to win this fight, basically 3-1. So I'll go with Basharat decision, but I'm not interested in it. Moving on, we've got Loosa, the last ninja. Okay. Versus Skeletor, Reese McKee. So I remember Reese McKee, like I've seen him fight recently in Cage Warriors. I've seen him fight in the past where he got brought in to essentially job to what's his name? Chimaev. And then he lost to the Great White, Alex Morono. I had trouble remembering his name last time. But now he's coming in here as the welterweight champion from Cage Warriors. Shit ton of Cage Warriors champions on this card. He's plus 155. He's Irish, and he's fighting the Swiss. Doesn't look, maybe Swiss chocolate. Yeah, let's go with Swiss chocolate here in Loosa. Reese McKee, to me, based on what I've seen from him in the past, and oh boy, like I don't know if he's improved incredibly to the point where it's like, oh wow, like his first run in the UFC is going to be different from his current run. But I understand why he is plus 155. Like he's a giant man. He's 6'2". He's got a 78-inch reach. Loosa's 5'10", 74-inch reach. I don't like Reese McKee here. I don't know if he's got anything for Loosa. And Loosa's minus 180. I don't particularly think Loosa is one of these great fighters. Like I know he trains at Killcliff. He's very skilled. He's a good kickboxer. I know he can mix in takedowns. There's just so much threat here in the sense that Reese McKee does have those long arms where he can potentially get a choke on Loosa. If he say pops Loosa's nose to the back of his skull and he doesn't like it, I can see Loosa shooting for a takedown. And Reese McKee's a tall guy. He's not necessarily impervious to getting taken down. I do think Loosa can do it, but if he gets him in the right position, I think he can choke him. I think he can get a guillotine choke or a power guillotine. As for knocking out Loosa, I don't know about that, man. Like he's kind of got some weird, awkward movement and striking. He's I think too damn tall for that division. I think he should move up to maybe middleweight. To me, it almost looks like he's a lightweight, like basically a middleweight fighting at lightweight. That's the kind of perception that I get from the guy. I'm going to go with Loosa to win this fight. I don't think Reese McKee's impervious to getting knocked out. You know, Loosa is not really known for getting knockouts himself. He's kind of a decision fighter. He throws a lot of good volume. I can even see Loosa getting a submission on him. Like he had that tight submission. I think there was an arm triangle on the GOAT, Jack Della. I just see more opportunities for Loosa here. So I'll go with Loosa. I'll go by a decision. Reese McKee, if he comes out here and he overperforms, like I don't expect him to, but if he has a good showing, then we'll go from there. But from what I've seen from him in the past, like what was his last fight? He fought Jim Wallhead, and Jim Wallhead, I believe, if I remember correctly, at least had him hurt once, but it was a pretty close fight until, it got stopped. And I don't remember who he fought in Cage Warriors, where he had like a blood and guts type of fight back and forth, where he nearly got finished and he ended up winning I think that's when he won the belt. So I've just never really been high on Reese McKee. And there might be an opportunity here for Loosa to have a very good performance and for this to be a steal at minus 180. But again, I'm not too interested in finding that out. So I'm willing to put money on the table here, or leave it on the table. Next bout, we've got Nora Cornolle versus Jocelyn Edwards. This fight intrigues me a bit because the odds, I think, are spot on. We've got Edwards being minus 125. Is this the first French person? The first Frenchie? Yeah, the first Frenchman or woman is plus 105 for Cornolle. And the reason I bring that up is that I do think that this fight could be very close. Edwards' last fight was very close, and I capitalized on it. But with this being a French commission, while the French were and banning the fucking sport, I think there could be some shenanigans here where it comes to this fight, where Edwards, I think she's got the better boxing. I think she's got good volume. I liked what I saw from Nora. I like the Muay Thai ability. She's just as tall as Edwards. She's got good elbows. I mean, she's got really good elbows. she's 6-1, so she's not the more skilled person here. She's the older person. But damn, do I think this could be a close fight, because what I've seen from her, in the sense that she can actually stuff takedowns and get some takedowns of her own, she does remind me a bit of Lucy Pudilova, where, her takedowns are kind of crap, but if she gets them, which, Jocelyn Edwards, that's her biggest downfall, is takedown defense. But if she can get a takedown on her and get some top control and land some strikes, I think she can do some damage, more so than what Pudilova did in the last fight. And she could edge out at least 2 rounds. Or if the striking is close enough, where Edwards is just, only throwing punches and teeps up the middle, where Cornolle can, throw harder leg kicks and run in with elbows. I think it's a very, very close fight. I'm split on this one 100%, because it is kind of lower level women's MMA. And my second rule in betting, do not bet low level women's MMA unless you have a good feeling. And I don't know if I have that good feeling here. Like, I know what Edwards can do. I know how skilled she can be. And from what I've seen from Cornolle is that I think she has a chance to beat her. But I do think she's going to need the help from the judges. But I just don't know. Like, when I'm expecting judges to make bad calls, I got to see it first, right? I got to see it earlier in the night. And this being the first French person fighting, I don't know if I want to take that chance. It's a close one. I do think it's a close one, because Edwards has the better, I guess, boxing, and the Muay Thai is going to go to Nora. Ooh. It's close to me, because they're so evenly matched, in my opinion. I'm going to go with Edwards by a very, very close decision. But realistically, though, my gut is telling me, like, my brain's telling me that Edwards should win this fight. I think she's just more seasoned. She's fought better competition. But my gut is telling me that they're going to get back that decision for Pudilova here. So keep that in mind. Next bout, we've got Zara Fairn versus Jacqueline Cavalcante. Cavalcante is minus 325. So when I heard about that, I'm like, well, Zara Fairn is terrible, but she's not too terrible. Like, I took a shot on her against Josie Nunes, and it was a split decision, I believe. It was close. I was so disappointed in her. She was winning that fight, but she allowed herself to lose by not throwing enough. She wasn't throwing knees up the middle. Yeah, Jacqueline's going to beat the shit out of her. I think Jacqueline, from what damn, my notes aren't here. I left it on my other computer. But what I've seen from Jacqueline, good kickboxing. She's tough. Her one decision was a split decision to Margina Jandiroba in the PFL, where I actually thought she won that fight. So what ended up happening is that it was a close first round where I give it to Jacqueline. She had good low kicks, just a better striking. Jandiroba didn't look like she was too pleased to be in there with her. Second round, she gets hurt, Jacqueline, that is, nearly finished. So it's a clear round for Martina. Third round, Jacqueline took over and essentially, like, dominated that third round, not to the point where she nearly got a finish, but it was like clearly her round. So I'm like, okay, should be 29-28 Cavalcante, but it went the other way, more than likely because the optics of that second round. I'm assuming, obviously, I wasn't there, but from what I saw from her, she's a tough girl. She can go forward. She can come back from adversity. She's 26 years old. She's taller than Fairn, so that reach advantage and height advantage for Fairn is not going to be there. I don't know what Jacqueline's reach advantage or reach is. It's listed that Fairn's is 73.2. I don't think it matters. Fairn doesn't really use her striking very well. She is the Jobert of this card. So I'm going to go with Cavalcante to win. I might take potentially inside the distance, because this is another girl. If she gets on top of you, like, she can do some damage with the ground and pound. So I think that would be the best route. If I end up taking a bet on Jacqueline, it's probably going to be inside the distance, because I think Fairn is just, she has potential. If she was 10 years younger and not an absolute moron with bad fight IQ, she could have potential. But at this point, I don't foresee this fight going her way. So I'll go with Jacqueline, the neighbor of France, to finish Fairn. Moving on, we've got a very interesting fight here. We've got Morgan all right, let me just get this out of the fucking way. His nickname is the Last Pirate, right? So he's on a pirate motif, and his name is Morgan. Why couldn't he go as Captain Morgan Charriere? That sounds beautiful, but I'm assuming he thought about it and then maybe got a cease and desist here. But Captain Morgan Charriere, who is 18-9-1, he's 305 as the favorite out of France, coming back. On the other side, Manolo Zechini, Angelo Veneziano is his nickname. I don't want to fuck with that guy. Plus 235 for the Italian. And from what I saw from both these guys, Morgan, Captain Morgan, he's a pretty solid guy. I'm looking at his record. I'm like, why is he 18-9? And I'm like, well, he shows to be, as currently, like his last few fights, a very solid fighter, very good when it comes to his striking, his killer instinct, his submission defense. There was a fight recently. Who was it? Pedro Souza, where he got taken down and nearly submitted. And by nearly, I mean he was put in a threat of a submission, like an armbar and a triangle, but he showed good defense. Like he didn't get caught anything serious. And then when he got on top of him, beat the absolute shit out of him to the point that they stopped it in the corner. Like they're like, yeah, he can't continue. He busted him up real bad. He's pretty solid. So I haven't gone back and watched his career, but my guess is, this is just an educated guess, is that maybe he just started fighting without being too, well versed in like takedown defense, and he maybe just got held down, because his striking's solid. Very good low kicks, very good punches. As for Manolo, what I found interesting is that like he's 11-3. He seems solid as well. If I remember correctly, not on this computer. Believe he trains out of Jackson Wink. And he's a very interesting cat in the sense that he actually has a lot of first and second round finishes, where he kind of goes balls to the wall. He's very aggressive. He's a very good striker. The thing is that he does slow down. I did see his fight with Danny Matheson, where he was beating Danny's ass, nearly finished him, but he was too tired come the second round, where he kind of threw everything but the kitchen sink at him, and then his gas tank failed him, and then he was kind of sitting duck there, where he got taken down and beaten up. And that's kind of like the common thing for the guy. He goes forward, he throws big bombs, but he gets tired, and then he gets picked apart. Is there threat for Manolo to knock out Morgan? Potentially, right? I don't think Morgan, if I remember correctly with him, he's never been finished, either submitted or knocked out. To my knowledge, he's got some older fights where just is considered a loss, like loss, and then decision. So he seems like a durable guy. I've seen him take some good shots, good chin on the guy. I think he's going to be the more measured guy here. In his last fight, in his last title defense, I believe it was Diego Silva. He was a little cautious. He didn't necessarily go nuts, but he ended up getting the finish later on. And when he finished, I'm like, I mean, he absolutely brutalized him. He left zero doubt that he finished the guy. Like he was just pounding him against the cage. And I think that's what's going to happen here. So I'm going to go with Morgan Charriere, the last butt pirate, to get a second round TKO. Second or third round. I'm going to go with second round on Manolo. I think the first round's going to be crazy. There's a good chance that Morgan could get cracked, possibly rocked, but the French crowd, it ain't gonna let this guy quit unless he does quit. That'd be really funny, especially like if he's wearing white shorts and shit. He just starts waving his shorts. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Morgan Charriere second round finish. I do think that this fight isn't gonna go the distance. I think both these guys, it's like a killer be killed for the Zechini, which in this case he's going to be Zechini because he's going to get chinned. But Morgan, I think, is the more brighter prospect between the two. So although he's got more losses, I do think he's just a more complete fighter. I mean, really good striking. I really enjoyed watching him fight. Moving on, we've got another nobody fight. We've got Denis Ghemmouri versus Colin Loughran, the Don. This fight intrigued me because I didn't know what the fuck I was watching with these two. I'm watching the Don here, Colin. He's minus 320. Comeback on Yanis is plus 250. Relatively the same in age, 27 for Loughran, and Ghemmouri, 28, 5'9 for the Desert Warrior. Ghemmouri, 5'6" for the Don Loughran. I don't see the odds being that high for the Don. I don't understand it. I've saw his last fight live, and I was not necessarily unimpressed, but I was like, what else you got? So he's 8-0. He's from Ireland, and I couldn't pinpoint specifically what his style was just by watching him. But when I taped his older stuff, like he's a very strong wrestler. He's got very, very good hips. That's the one thing I noticed about the guy. The hips being that when he gets on top of you, he's very hard to get off of you, especially if he gets on mount. He's going to batter your ass. If he takes your back, like he's going to ground and pound you, or he's going to get you in a very tight choke. He's a very stocky dude. He kind of reminds me like the build of maybe a little taller version of Money Mendez. But his boxing is intriguing to me because he seems to have, like, I'll call it off and on good boxing. In one fight, he looks super stiff, lead leg heavy, and he's throwing everything incredibly stiff and slow. But when he actually like connects and he lets his hands go, it's like, oh, he's got a good boxing background, and that's what I read. He's got some boxing experience as a younger man, and it shows definitely when he lets his hands go. It's like, oh, this guy can crack. He's got a good right hand, good pullback counters, but there's too much that like it just confuses me. Why are you so fucking big of a favorite? If he can get the takedown, I can definitely see him having some dominance. But when I'm taping Gianni, the Desert Warrior, weird name, by the way, especially because he has like a Middle Eastern background. Interesting. But I'm taping the guy, and I'm noticing that he doesn't suck. Why is he a plus 250? He has got what do we got here? K1 kickboxing background. The guy, let's see, he can get takedowns of his own. I saw him get cracked and hurt in one of his fights, I believe with Nowitzki, was it? Yeah, Nowitzki hurt him, and then he instantly shot for a takedown. Like he was rocked as fuck. Then he got an easy takedown, recovered. I'm like, this guy's got some interesting fight IQ. His boxing's good. He's got very good switch stance striking. He does leave his chin up in the air a little bit, but I don't think that's going to be an issue here because with the Don here, I don't think he necessarily has the reach advantage to really capitalize on that chin. He's got good movement. Giannis does. I think he might be the underdog play for me. Like maybe a quarter unit, maybe half a unit. I'm not sure yet because I'm like, how does he handle takedowns? And he seems to handle takedowns quite well, but he hasn't necessarily fought a grappler the level of, Colin here. So I'm kind of leaning towards Ghemmouri just based on the fact that like I've seen him fight. I think he's got, I don't want to say a better record. Like on paper, yes, it's 12-1, but his opposition has not necessarily been the greatest. But from what I've seen from the guy with Loughran, when he fights, he's so lead leg heavy, and he's fighting a guy who throws good leg kicks. I can see Ghemmouri chewing up those legs, making those takedowns very, very ineffective. So to me, it's kind of worth a shot. I'm willing to take that shot on Ghemmouri. Loughran, I just think that he might be a little too green for me, a little too stiff. Like you see that ability that he has on the ground and on the mat, but if he can't get that takedown, and I think Giannis has decent enough takedowns to avoid anything in good movement, he's definitely going to be the more fluid striker. I mean, I saw in his last fight with Dylan Hazen, Loughran was getting kind of chipped away up until like he started like pressuring him and then eventually finished him. But Giannis to me is probably the better striker and the best striker that Loughran's ever faced. So I'm going to go with this dude Ghemmouri to win by I'm going to say third round TKO. I think he's going to pepper him up. He's going to bloody him up, chew up the legs, and eventually get a stoppage in there. So I'll go with Ghemmouri by third round TKO. I'm very intrigued to see if I got a good read here, just because like I wasn't unimpressed, but I was left leaving like I needed more from the guy. I'm like, what else you got? Like you showed me the potatoes. Where's the fucking meat? And with the Ghemmouri, I'm like, same kind of concept, but I think I saw a little bit more. Like, you showed me a picture of the meat. I'm like, oh, sweet. When are we eating? So I'll go with Ghemmouri by a third round TKO. All right, here we've got the main card. Is that the main card opener? No, this is the second. The Volkan Oezdemir, no time versus a newcomer, Bogdan Guskov. So, minus 160 for Oezdemir, comeback on Guskov is plus 130. For off the bat, I don't think this fight's going to go the distance. I think both these guys are finishers. Guskov, he is on like a 3-fight winning streak of pure knockouts, and those knockouts come in the first round. And on top of that, I believe they come in the first half of the round. So 25 seconds, 30 seconds. And then the one after that was 4 minutes and 26 seconds into the round. So yeah, he's getting a lot of knockouts. He's got a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, trains with Johnny Walker. He's also the reigning and defending Anthony Smith lookalike winner 2022 and 2023. And it's going to be an interesting fight because I think that Oezdemir gets back on track. He's only 33. I, for whatever reason, thought he was like 48. He's been fighting in the UFC for a long time, and he's been fighting absolute killers in the UFC. Now he's fighting another up-and-comer. And what's funny, the first thing I thought of was the last time I bet on Volkan Oezdemir against a new up-and-comer that I thought was going to get chinned, it was former champion Yuri Prohaska, who fucked him up and ruined my night in Vegas. So could that happen? It absolutely can. You know, Guskov, he can go out there and just kind of start swanging and banging and crack him. But realistically, I think that Volkan is just too skilled on the feet. With Bogdan, I think he's a little too wild. I think he's very hittable. And I think he's been fighting the right competition to get him into the UFC to be with his buddy Johnny Walker, and not necessarily the right competition to earn his spot in the UFC, which to me means he's kind of been fighting bums, knocking out bums, and it's going to be impressive. But now when he's fighting a guy who's not going to be that easy to knock out, a guy who can actually strike and defensively avoid punches, it's going to be a tough night for Bogdan. So I will go with Oezdemir to get revenge on his loss to Anthony Smith and actually avenge that by first-round knockout here. I think Bogdan might come out here a little too aggressive, and then he's going to feel the power of no time. And then no time cuts a beautiful promo about how he has no time. So we'll move on from that one. Benoit Saint-Denis versus Thiago Moises. Now, this fight I've been going back and forth on. I think it's a 50-50 matchup because each one presents, a bit of a quality that the other one does not possess. But ultimately, another thing that I kind of had to keep my mind on is like, despite the fact that maybe your reads previously did not pan out, meaning my read on Benoit Saint-Denis, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true, because my initial read on Kinoshita when he fought Adam Fugit is that I think that certain guys are going to give him issues because like taller guys, and he's not necessarily this beautiful knockout artist. He's a good counter fighter, but I think you can duck under those, like whatever. I had a good read, but things get muddled. My read on Benoit Saint-Denis is that he's a little slow. He's a little awkward with his striking. He's definitely a very strong grappler. He's got definitely, I think, a judo background, jiu-jitsu background. We saw what he can do against Bonfim, right? And then what I noticed in that fight, like, I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, he dominated Bonfim from start to finish. Go back and rewatch it. That's not the case, right? Like, he definitely spammed those body shots early, and he looked super fast. I was like, oh shit, was I completely off about Benoit? Not so fast. Literally, that's how the kicks came after. They weren't so fast because he kind of gassed himself out a little bit throwing those kicks, which was reality a good strategy. Like you're kicking the boy, the smaller man on the outside, tiring him out, hitting the body. He's got really no way to defend other than to block it. And then you go to the head. You're doing damage to those arms. Like that's a good strategy, but he's slowed down. He got a takedown on Bonfim. Bonfim got back up, and then Bonfim at that point I thought was starting to take over. I'm like, damn, Benoit slowed down. He wasn't as effective with the takedowns, but I think Bonfim made a huge mistake, got his back taken. He was too eager to not get submitted that he has eventually let himself get submitted. But I do think that's my read on Benoit. Like, I think he is slow. I think he hits hard, definitely, but he's a little clunky. He's a little... Oh man, like when you're playing a video game and the controllers are a bit stiff, and like it kind of feels like that way with him. Like he's not super responsive when you're putting the input. Like you're doing quarter circle high punch, and it's not throwing the fireball fast enough. That's kind of the feeling I get with Saint Denis. I guess the better descriptor would be he's kind of fighting underwater. Thiago Moises, he's not the greatest striker, right? Between the two, I don't necessarily think that Moises has more power. I don't particularly think that he's more polished at striking. I think they're equal in that sense, but I think he throws more fluidly. I think he's quicker. I think he's got a better jab. They're both good grapplers. And what I notice is that if Thiago Moises gets taken down, I think his scrambles are more likely to lead to a finish, meaning that he's got more options to get a finish with the heel hooks or the knee bars or the transitions to armbar from the bottom. Like his jiu-jitsu is absolutely solid, and he is the dog here, plus 115 and the minus 135 for Benoit Saint-Denis. I think they're super evenly matched here. I think early Benoit's going to be hell on wheels, especially with the crowd behind him. But I think eventually, I think Thiago might be able to chip away at him and tire him out and then put him in the bad spots where he might take his back, pound him out a little bit. And Benoit's tough as hell. He's not going to quit. So it could be a very close fight. And frankly, I am worried that there's a chance for a robbery here because they are so evenly matched that I can see Thiago Moises clear cut 100%, no doubt about it, 29-28 for Thiago winning round number 2 and round number 3. But something happens. And one thing as a judge that I don't really like talking about, but when it comes down to these fights where you are the hometown guy and you're the judge and the whole crowd's behind you and you're the hometown judge and you may have seen Benoit Saint-Denis and he shook your hand and you kind of like the guy, what ends up happening, and I'm not saying that I'm guilty of this because I fucking but when that happens with certain judges, and realistically, they all kind of know each other, especially if you're in a small community. And with France being like a very tight, small community with MMA, it's what I'm guessing, there's going to be a lot of bias for the French fighters. And in this fight with Benoit Saint-Denis in particular, like he's a goddamn French hero. He's armed forces. It's going to be tough not to be biased. And what I mean is that, say the fight is considerably close, but with Thiago Moises really having the more successful striking and grappling. Let's give an example. If Benoit Saint-Denis is moving backwards the whole fight, and Thiago Moises is moving forwards and landing some shots, not uber effective, but Benoit still eating them. What the judges should be seeing is Thiago's controlling the cage. He's moving forward. He's landing shots. It's not the most impressive thing, but theoretically, he is winning the fight via control of the cage, which is octagon control, aggression, effective enough striking. It doesn't have to be like he's knocking the dude out, but it's effective in the sense that he's landing. And that's enough for him to win that round. But what a biased judge might see is, wow, look at Benoit Saint-Denis avoiding the big shots, using effective ring awareness, skirting around the cage, not getting touched. That is effective defense against the striking. So that could be considered, effective, whatever you want to call it. One could view it that way, like he's being the more effective fighter by not getting hit, which defense doesn't count, but some certain judges want to see what they want to see, which does scare me here. Like if this becomes a grappling matchup and Benoit is off of his back and he throws a couple punches and Thiago just kind of eats him, gets a better position and just kind of controls him there, throws a couple punches of his own, perhaps the judges might view it that Benoit's punches from the bottom were more effective, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I do worry about that. And part of the reason I'm not too eager to bet this card, but I will take that L for Moises. I think he can win this fight by decision. I think the best option is for him to get the finish, especially if we see a lot of shenanigans the entire card, where it's like you get a 30-27 for a French fighter when it's clearly a 29-28 for him, where they just gave him every single round because why the hell not? Why even bother judging a fight? Just give it to the French guy. I'm not accusing them of doing this, right? I'm just saying that that's a very high likelihood. But yeah, I'll go with Thiago Moises. I'll go by a decision. although it goes against my narrative that they're going to try to fuck him. But I think he can get it done. I do believe that at least on an American scorecard, he will win this fight by decision. Close fight, though. Next bout, Manon Fiorot versus Rose Namajunas. Rose moving up to flyweight, and this is the co-main event. Fiorot minus 185, come back on Namajunas is plus 155. And I kept thinking to myself, what is the way that Rose wins this fight? Because she's fighting essentially the number 1 or number 2 contender at flyweight. You know, she's undefeated in the UFC. She's beaten good people. She beat Mayra Bueno Silva, Jennifer Maia, Caitlin Chukagian. Like, there can only be one blonde fighter, and now it's Manon Fiorot. She's beaten everybody to get, like, she beat Tabitha Riccia. I know that was in like a short notice bout, but still, it's a good name to have. So her resume is fantastic. It'd be even better if she had a former champion on there in Rose Namajunas. What Rose brings to the table, despite being undersized, is that she is a very, very skilled fighter. She's a championship level fighter when it comes to like the ability to grapple off of her back. Her striking's fantastic, good boxing, good kickboxing. Mentally, though, I don't think she's clearly not there. Her moving up, I do think that it's a kind of a mistake. I don't know why she's moving up. Maybe she knows something that I don't. I do want to see how she looks on the scale. But when she fought in, who did she fight? She fought that ugly. Jillian Robertson, of course. When she grappled with Jillian and Jillian took her back immediately and choked her out in Fury Pro Grappling, to me, that was a sign that she should not move up in weight, yet she is. Does she think, well, I got out grappled in a grappling matchup by the bigger girl? Well, I'm fighting another striker. I'm going to have a better chance to possibly get a finish here or even use my grappling against her because, like, Rose has got solid jiu-jitsu. Like, even back in the day, like, she can just take your back and choke you out. She's very good. But what people tend to not remember is that Manon Fiorot is a pretty good grappler herself. If I remember correctly, she's either a brown belt or purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Like, she's solid. She's absolutely solid. Striking-wise, good output. It's going to be a pretty interesting night for Rose Namajunas. I'm picking against her here. I'm going with Manon Fiorot by decision. And I'm being nice because, like, I don't have the heart to say that Rose is going to get finished here because I think Rose can get finished by submission or TKO. I think she can get completely dominated with the grappling. I think she's going to be too small. But we'll see what happens here. But it's really not her night against Manon Fiorot. I'll give her credit going up to fight the number 1 contender, number 2 contender, I suppose. If Rose wins this fight, I think she can leapfrog a lot of people into that title fight. Like, a lot of people. You call me crazy, but like, think former champion versus the current champion. It will be interesting, but I'll go with Manon by a decision. Now we got the main event. Ciryl Gane, Bon Gamine versus Polar Bear Sergey Spivac. Gamine is minus 175, come back on the Polar Bear plus 150. And I don't have much to say about this one, really. Like, I'm not the first one to say this. A lot of people are saying this. I'm going to just reiterate that Bon Gamine is not fighting John Jones anymore, right? That last fight was interesting. Like, it caught a lot of people off guard. It caught me off guard. I thought Bon Gamine was going to have a better performance against John Jones, not just getting taken down once and choked out against the cage, which was surprising to him, to me, and possibly even Jones, because he didn't think it was going to be that easy. That was 5 months ago. He didn't take any damage. He's not fighting John Jones anymore. Sergey Spivac is not John Jones. Sergey Spivac is there to get knocked out. Sergey Spivac is a lot slower. His striking's not there. It's improving, right? He's got a very good right hand. He's got, 78-inch reach. He's a smaller guy overall here against Ciryl Gane, who is one of the most athletic, explosive guys. God, he's got the genetics of like a fucking freak. The fact that he just decided, I want to fight one day, and he became really good at it is ridiculous. He became an undefeated UFC champion at what was that, fucking 9-0 or whatever, 11-0 when he fought Derek Lewis in Houston, and he trolled everybody by coming out to Still Tipping, and everyone's like, "Yeah, it's Derek Lewis," and it's like, "Oh, fuck you, Cyril Gane." He's like, "What did I do? I thought I was doing the right thing." You know what he was fucking doing. I like Cyril Gane a lot. Like, he's a very talented guy. Realistically, man, if there's no John Jones here, he'd be the champion right now. He's going to beat Sergey Spivac. I don't see Spivac having the same amount of success that John Jones did. Even if he does get a takedown, I think Bongamin is just too athletic. He can get back up. He can avoid the submissions. The submission that he got caught in with that, like, what do they call it officially? A guillotine choke against the cage. Let's think about that for a second, right? It looked embarrassing, but he had no other place to go. He just got caught. It's the same thing to me as getting caught with a punch and getting knocked out. In this case, he just got put up against the cage with one of the greatest of all time, some of the longest arms, some ridiculous fight IQ for John Jones, and he just ended up getting that really tight guillotine against the cage. And Cyril Gane's like, "Well, fuck me. Like, I can't believe this is happening. I have to tap out because I can't do anything." I don't think Spivac is that kind of a fighter. He's too slow. He doesn't have those kind of tricks up his sleeve. Like, he did submit Derek Lewis in his last fight, but Derek had some success getting back up. And the fact that Cyril Gane is a really strong, athletic guy, I just don't see Spivac having a good time there. I think Gane's going to finish him within 3 rounds, and it's going to just kind of prove that there's a certain level to the heavyweight division where Cyril Gane may not be in that bubble for championship caliber, but he's like right below it, and then he can make his way up in there. He can pop into that bubble. So I'll go with Cyril Gane by 3rd round TKO. Spivac's going to take another loss. And then what's next for Spivac? Well, I don't particularly know what's next for Spivac. Like, he's a solid fighter. He's only been losing to Tom Aspinall. Would they do another Tom Aspinall fight? I don't think so. He might be able to re-welcome Chris Dawkins back to the heavyweight division. I guess that's when we find out that Spivac is black and he knocks him out with one punch. But I'll go with Gane to win this one in the 3rd round. I think he's going to put on a show for the French fans. He's going to finish Spivac. He's going to show improved takedown defense. He's going to be too quick for him. He's going to attack the legs. He's going to batter him from the outside. And then when he gets in close, he's going to elbow the shit out of him and put him out against the cage with punches. So I'll go with Cyril Gane by TKO in the 3rd round. Yeah, so those are my predictions for UFC France. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any bets that you think are good. Again, I'm not too keen on this card. I feel like it's a card that I can lose some money on, and I don't want to lose any more money. I probably am going to bet it's either no time by knockout or just fight doesn't go the distance. I might just do a little bit just to get a taste, a little bit of that taste. Give me some of that Pookie to get some action in there. I'm probably going to take Giannis. I'll take a little bit of a shot on him because I think the odds might be a little overblown here. Like, if Loughran comes in here and just dominates him, I'll be like, okay, cool. Like, he's a solid guy. But these Cage Warrior champions don't seem to live up to the hype sometimes, man. Like, I think back of what the hell's that guy's name? The judo guy who got I already forgot his name. Whatever. He came in and he fought Nougat. He finished Nougat, and then they called it an eye poke. Whatever. He came in. He didn't live up to the hype. He got decisioned by Mr. Highlight. Yeah, I keep thinking about that. Like, these Cage Warriors champions coming in, like Christian Leroy Duncan came in. He had a good showing. Then he had a terrible showing. So I'm very weary of betting these Cage Warrior champs, especially like at minus 320. I think it's crazy. So for me, I think Ghemmouri might be the play for me, like, of the week for me, where it's like, from what I'm seeing, it's a lot closer, but maybe I am wrong. But yeah, overall interesting card. Let me know what you think about it. Again, Johnny Tigerbomb MMA. I'll catch you next week for UFC. What is it? Oh, Sean Strickland's fighting. Power to the people, man. Power to the people. Good night.